It's been a while since I did a deep dive on a particular character in Overlord, and today we'll be talking about none other than Sebas from Overlord, a character that's not one-dimensional and actually has a lot of layers as to what makes him the kind of character that he is. This character is very complex, and the reason being is just simply not because of just what he does in the series, but also his ideals and his way of thinking, as he's one of the few characters that has a complete line of thinking even though he's part of Nazareth compared to the other characters that are also part of Nazareth as well. Sebas is very interesting for this reason alone, but it actually goes even more further once you see the particular actions that he does and the things he says all throughout the times that he was shown throughout the entire series. But of course, like always, we have to talk about the origins of Sebas as to who was the one that created him and how he became the person that he is now. Sebas was created by one of the original founders of Nazareth called Touch Me, and yes, I'm being 100% serious, that is the actual name of this founder. And just like his creator, Sebas is very similar to his line of thinking, just like the original founder, because Touch Me used to have this belief that the strong should always protect the weak. And if the strong aren't able to protect the weak, then they have no right to call themselves strong. That is always the mindset that Sebas seems to have always had. And that's probably one of the reasons why Sebas always did the things he always did. And this is really different compared to the other members of Nazareth, because if you have watched the series or you have read the novels, you would know that characters like Demiurge and Albedo are twisted characters that have very twisted mindsets, believing that anything that's not part of Nazareth is inferior, and believing that humans and demi-humans are nothing but weak creatures that stand no chance against Nazareth, and would not hesitate or have no problem whatsoever slaying all of them in the blink of an eye. But that's not what Sebas is. Sebas, unlike those other characters, actually is very interested in humans, and while he is fully aware just how strong Nazareth is, he also believes that there are people in the human race that are also strong and are also just as impactful as well and can actually be useful, and not all of them are weak. And because of these beliefs, it's not surprising that some of these members of Nazareth doesn't get along with Sebas all that well. More specifically, it is stated that Demiurge and Sebas don't get along. And while Sebas at one point he's asked by Sheltier why both him and Demiurge don't get along, he himself tends to say that he doesn't really know why. But of course, we as the viewers might know why they don't get along, and that's obviously because of their different mindsets and how they view humans and other living creatures that aren't part of Nazareth. It's very different, and you can see why two people with different beliefs may not see eye to eye. But despite that, it doesn't keep Sebas from doing what he believes is right, and sometimes he even questions himself as to why he does the things he does. While he is very loyal to Nazareth, he oftentimes does things that you wouldn't see another character that's from Nazareth do. Like, he will help people if he sees them struggling, or he'll help them if they are in danger. And it's the reason why sometimes when he's on missions or he has duties, it takes quite a while for him to complete them, because he's focusing on things that may not seem as important or may be seen as unnecessary for him to do. But that's just the kind of person Sebas is. Of course, with that being said, it doesn't mean that Sebas is just naive and believes that all humans are good. That is not the case with Sebas, because even Sebas himself has seen the darker side of humanity. Like during the Bloody Valkyrie arc, in which the carriage that Sebas was in was ambushed by a group of bandits, or during that time when he saw a noble beating up a woman just because he could. It's these moments that not only disgusted Sebas, but he also realized why some members of Nazareth feel a great disgust towards humanity, and he can see why some members of Nazareth aren't the biggest fans of the human race, because people like this exist. But another thing is worth mentioning is that even if there are people who are in need, it doesn't mean that Sebas is going to 100% always help them, because like always, there is going to be those group of people that are just simply wanting somebody to help them instead of doing things on their own. And those kind of people are also the kind of people that Sebas tends to stay away from, because there's no point in helping these people if they can't help themselves. Which is why the moment when Climb wanted Sebas to teach him because he saw how strong he was, Sebas was very hesitant to teach him anything, because, well, first, he barely knew Climb and had no idea who this person was, and second of all, he was unsure if Climb was determined to want to be strong. And he did this by making him do a test first, showing showing Climb if he really was up to the task by showing him a fraction of his power, which of course at first Climb showed that he wasn't expecting this individual to be this powerful, but because he was so determined to protect the people he cares about, he actually went through with it. And of course for Sebas, this was actually quite interesting because it showed him that Climb wasn't playing around, that he was being 100% serious at what he was trying to do, and that was to become strong, which of course is a huge achievement because not a lot of people were able to impress Sebas in that particular way. But this is just another example of how cautious Sebas is, and how once you're able to convince him the kind of person you are, he is going to treat you the way he wants to treat you. Another thing that makes Sebas all the more interesting is how he also interacts with the other members of Nazarick, and how even though these people are powerful and are probably the group of people that you should never mess with whatsoever because of the many things they could do to you if you anger them, Sebas is very calm and collected, and despite the amount of powerful people that are around him, he never shows fear and never shows hesitation on what he has to say or his particular opinions of certain things. And this becomes more clear during his conversation with Sheltier, with once again during the Bloody Valkyrie arc. During one of his conversations with Sheltier, he tells her how in this particular mission that they are in, she didn't really need to be there. There were many other people like Demir or Aura that could have done the mission and the results would have been the same. This of course angers Sheltier and is not happy about that comment that Sebas made to her, and the people around her just being the vampires and Solution, you can quickly see just the fear they have of Sheltier, and they worry that this was going to be a massacre. Sebas on the other hand was the complete opposite. He wasn't shaking, he wasn't quivering, he wasn't pleading for his life. Instead, he was still calm and collected and just told Sheltier that he was just simply worried about her, and that's because of her ability, this being the blood frenzy, and he was just simply wondering if she had that under control. In which, after he explained his reasoning, Sheltier calmed down and pretty much moved on from that conversation, which once again is just another highlight of the kind of person Sebas is. Even though Sebas is with somebody that is a floor guardian, he still did not show any fear around them. Now you could say this is just simply part of his personality, but you could also see this as him not really viewing this entire situation as a threat, because even though Sebas isn't a floor guardian, his powers are equal to that of a floor guardian. So you could also state that Sebas was not really fearing for his life, because at any time if Sheltier were to start a fight with him, then he could fight back against Sheltier and he could last a good while. But of course, the moment that really showed us how much of a complex character Sebas is obviously his interactions and his relationship with the girl that he would save, and this being Tuare. Tuare was somebody that was introduced to Sebas during the Men in the Kingdom arc, in which when Sebas was just simply walking after doing some of his duties, he stumbles upon a bag that was thrown in the streets. And because of his curiosity, he decides to open the bag, and he finds that it's a girl who is not only naked, but she is badly beaten. And at first, when this girl grabs onto Sebas, at first he tells her to let go of him, showing how cautious he is. But once this girl shows that she really does want help and she doesn't have any ulterior motives, Sebas is very quick to help her out. At first, there was some problems because the person who was in charge of her doesn't want Sebas to take her, or else both of them could be in serious trouble and they could become targets of this group known as the Eight Fingers. Upon hearing this, Sebas pays off this person, telling him to use the money to escape the kingdom, showing us once again just how willing Sebas is to help somebody. But of course, this wasn't the biggest obstacle that he will overcome, because once he asks Solution to help take care of Tuare, Solution is very hesitant because she wonders if this is necessary to do and this is part of any mission. When Sebas says no, she of course doesn't want to do it, but Sebas insists that she has to help. And when she wants to report this to Ainz, he tells her not to because this is nothing that is worth reporting, which of course shocks Solution, and she starts to wonder if Sebas' loyalty to Nazarick is starting to dwindle down. Of course, that is not the case, but it's obvious why somebody like Solution would start to wonder if potentially Sebas would betray Nazarick in the near future. So it's not surprising that she wouldn't keep her word, because she would eventually report this back to Ainz, and of course this was a shock to Ainz, and this would lead to a confrontation between Sebas, Ainz, and some of the members of the Floor Guardians. And of course, this is just so that Ainz can see if Sebas truly is still loyal to Nazarick or is he a traitor. And when Ainz orders Tuareg to be summoned, he tells Sebas to kill her, and despite Sebas literally saving this girl and this girl being grateful for him saving her life, he shows no hesitation as he's ready to kill her right there. But of course is stopped by another floor guardian, Cocytus, who blocks his attack, and for a brief moment he is shocked and wonders if Cocytus is actually the one that is not being loyal. But of course this was all just simply a test to Ainz, as when Ainz tells Cocytus if that attack Sebas just did had the intent to kill, in which Cocytus responds saying that there was clear intent to kill, and had that attack not been blocked, Sebas would have actually killed Tuareg. But in the end it was all just a test to see if Sebas was still loyal, in which he was, as he was willing to kill this person just like that. But of course, despite his proof of loyalty being shown very clearly, Sebas was still worried for a moment, because if there's one thing that concerns him is people questioning his loyalty towards Ainz. It's very clear in this moment that he did want to prove himself that he was loyal to Ainz, and it didn't matter what he had to do. As long as he showed that he was loyal to him, that's all that matters to him. It really does show us that even though Sebas does care for humans, or at least some of them, and he does seem to be willing to help some people out, if he has to show his loyalty towards Nazarick, he would do just that, and no matter what he is told to do, he would do it with no hesitation. Luckily in this scenario it didn't happen, because we can clearly see that Sebas did care for Tuareg, and this wouldn't be the only time that we see that. When Ainz gives Tuareg the option to be able to live her life and didn't have to be involved with Nazarick or with any of them whatsoever, she refused to go with that lifestyle because she wanted to be next to Sebas, which just goes to show us that with Sebas' actions, it really can make people be grateful towards him and makes him be not only seen as a very respectable man, but somebody that is willing to put their trust and admire them for the rest of their lives. And when Tuareg was kidnapped and he has to deal with this group known as Six Arms to try to get her and save her, he shows that no matter who the person is or no matter how many enemies he makes, if they take something from him that he sees as valuable, he will have no problem taking you down. Of course, this battle was very one-sided, as Sebas once again showed us just how powerful he is, and he had no problems not only taking down Six Arms, but he had no problem saving Tuareg from danger, in which that alone did show that Sebas was somebody you shouldn't mess with either. Even though he's not a floor guardian, he is somebody that's still just as powerful as them, and if you ever make him an enemy, then really there's nothing really that you can do to stop him from taking you out. So overall, Sebas is a very interesting character in the Overlord series, because while he is part of Nazarick and he is willing to do anything and fulfill his duties to show his loyalty, at the same time he does have an open view towards other beings that aren't part of Nazarick. He does see a lot of things in them that other floor guardians or other members of Nazarick may not see, because once again their mindset is that Nazarick is superior and that the other people or the other races are nothing but insects. Sebas showed that he can have sympathy and empathy towards people regardless of who they are. Something that is also worth mentioning as well, whenever he was in a mission with Solution, he made it very clear to Solution to not go and attack and kill innocent people who are just doing their everyday things in their lives, and to just go after people who are trying to ambush them or have sinister plans towards them, which is just another clear example that Sebas has a bit of humanity inside him, and he wouldn't go as low as to just simply kill an innocent person just for the sake of doing it or because he can. That is not the type of person Sebas is, and it is a great contrast compared to the other characters of the Overlord series, because it's very clear that he is heavily influenced by his creator Touch Me, the many beliefs that he had. It's very clear that his ideals and his way of thinking towards life shaped Sebas to be the person that he is now. And with those reasons alone, it's no wonder why Sebas is not only one of my favorite characters of Overlord, but probably one of my favorite characters of the isekai genre. And that's where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.